Hello everybody, Anthony is here, and this is the fun part of the tutorial of the series where I start to do the rendering and post-processing of the drone. So if you're interested in about how created the drone, how it started out with just a sketch, then Illustrator, Vector, drawing, and then Fusion, you just check the previous videos. This one is just purely rendering inside Keyshot and some post-work in Photoshop. So right now I dropped it in Keyshot, and the cool thing is that in Keyshot you can just drop the step file, just quite tiny, so just 20 megabyte step file for a mesh, which actually is super heavy. It's about well, it's about 20 million triangles, maybe more, maybe even 40 million if you convert it from knobs to triangles. And so when I drop it in, essentially what you get is just applying different materials to different parts of the mesh. And originally I thought I would have like two parts, like body and wings would have a different material. Well, there'll be the eyes, not the eyes, the rings inside the wings that are glowing. And but I kind of ended up having just one material overall. It's a fairly monochromatic image in the end. That is kind of monochromatic, pretty much black and white. And originally, I kind of the final render, like it looks like it's in the border, but originally I was thinking about it to be a flying drone. But when I started to render it against a black background, it gave me this pretty cool idea that I actually could make it like an underwater drone. This is gonna be fairly unusual, and I also have. I also knew that I could get a photo bag with particles that would just land it inside that underwater space. Like if you watch underwater videos, they always some particles flowing around. So yeah, so while here I'm still in that phase of trying to make it to be in the air, trying different standard HDR maps. And by the way, there's a great website for HDR maps called hdrheaven.com. Just Google it up, and I don't know, the guy who's got this website is doing a great service to 3D artists. He's uploading all these maps for free. Essentially, you get a really high quality HDRIs for free, like 16,000 pixels. I mean, it's really insane that he's doing that. He's got some donations on Patreon, but honestly, like the good HDR map can cost something like 50 American dollars, 70 American dollars easy, and he's just uploading for free, which is insane, and it's fantastic. So check it out. You can apply those maps to your scene and see how they look. All right, so here I've used DOF, depth of field, found this focal point in Keyshot. Uh, so this is actually a pretty cool shot that I didn't use. Don't know why. Where I have these antennas that poking right into the corner of the frame. There are a few things, choices that I made while modeling, which I don't want the best choices ever. Like, for example, the eyes, these three eye cameras or lights, they are part of the model. They're not separate. So I cannot assign material to the eyes to get them glowing. And that's wasn't really a good idea because I had to paint it all. So I was thinking, okay, I'll do like 3 or 4 renders, which I'll be painted on top. And I went with that. But yeah, it wasn't too much of a problem. Also, yeah, so I'm trying to find this kind of interesting angles right here. I'll be doing it a lot. So just having fun around, looking for renders, rotating the spherical map all around, trying to see if I can get a nice reflections. You can see there is a seam that goes across the whole body, and that's me being kind of lazy. I should have just combined the body together. I wouldn't have had that seam. That seam was again something like I was whatever. I'll just overpaint it in Photoshop. But again, paint it in Photoshop. Like if I combine it inside Fusion, it would have taken me like 5 seconds to combine it in Fusion, and it took me 10 times more time to overpaint in Photoshop, and I had to overpaint it on every single render. So it took me like a couple of minutes to overpaint it on every single render. It makes it those 10 seconds becoming uh, 50 times longer. Here I really like this shot, but it was a little bit abstract. So if I'm just showcasing that particular design, and if I go for way too abstract renders, though they look cool, they become like it don't really explain what's going on with the model. Also here, when I was rendered, I kind of saw that I didn't detail the back part of the mesh enough. You can see like back frame. You can see the front frame is over detailed. Like back frame is really simple, and I should have really just pushed a few shapes there, here and there. And here I was just so tired of this whole project that I just wanted to run it out and go and leave it and let it go. All right. So yeah, now I think everything got the same material. So I just apply the same metallic anodized metal to everything. I have few cameras that have been saved. Essentially, every time you press P, you get a screenshot inside Keyshot that drops that image into a screenshot folder and creates a camera for that. It's pretty handy. So because I have two monitors, I always have these menus. Quite often, I have them on my second monitor, so I can have this image full screen or like almost full screen. All right, so now everything is just one material, pretty monochromatic. Though, yeah, okay. So now I'm just going through my renders on my cameras and trying to figure out which cameras I want to keep, which cameras I want to remove, which cameras I want to modify. So this is the final look for this particular angle. This and in the end, I had 4 final renders, so I didn't want to do too many. There's no point because each one of them I had to overpaint to get the glow. And now here I'm applying the glow material. Each one of them I had to overpaint to add the particles, some, my standard stuff I'll talk about in the future. And just looking at this stuff, evaluating it, and thinking, what should I do next? Yeah. So I was still thinking, would it have been a good idea to apply some kind of material to the wings and make some variations? It's probably not a bad idea, but here in particular, I just decided to keep it monochromatic. I think it's been a bit lazy, really, going for easier solutions and which are uh, having like fairly monochromatic materials. One of the things I could have added, uh, like put decals in. A certain type of decals would have helped to put the scale in. So I think the size of these electric motors, which are I think recognizable as electric motors, they kind of help to tell the story and about the size of this particular object. But if I put some big letters on the shell, it would have told the viewer that probably the letters are so big because, well, the object is fairly small, for example. I mean, obviously, on big objects like a big tank, you'll have big letters, but also they have really tiny letters. And here I could have had like big letters and even bigger letters. We have like big stickers that have really helped to sell it as a fairly big, uh, as a fairly small object. All right, here I'm doing like checking stuff inside Photoshop. I'm just trying to draw the glow that I was thinking about. Just duplicating the same layer to get the glow. And you can see the top layer, this hidden layers, I got like a red plastic render. I was thinking about using that layer to overlay it on top. And here I'm using the color lookup LET tables just to get. I always like to run them through to see what kind of like lighting I could get. Not lighting, but a look. So I always to convert all those layers to a smart object, and then I apply unsharp mask on top, apply a little bit of noise to get some grain. And this is a really good thing to do because I used to like flatten all the layers and apply unsharp mask to that, but it's better to make it a smart object, have all your layers inside. So I'm just applying the same thing to all other renders, doing spotlight, gradient, and just checking the intensity of all that. Okay, so I converted it to smart object. Uh, You can even do an action for that, like convert it to convert selection to smart object, and then apply unsharp mask and grain, that stuff. Again, it's trying to ideas with the red render. I'm not. I'll definitely want it just to overlay it maybe at minor like 10% opacity. Okay, trying to see if I can combine different materials together. So here I decided to overpaint the seam using a like stamp tool. And again, that would have taken me 5 seconds to fix in Fusion, but I got lazy in Fusion and I had to do some painting inside Photoshop. This is like an overlay render, I think, just to make it a little bit more shinier. So I have an anodized material at the bottom, which is black, and the shiny metal at the top. I do quite often do multiple renders of different materials just to combine them later in Photoshop. So I'm now overpainting, have to overpaint stuff here. Same thing here. Another render which I had to overpaint. So I was thinking maybe even it's red render, maybe that would pop in the shadows, give some kind of interesting reflection, like a tint to the material. It's will be more complicated combined material, but really I didn't use that red render at all. But it's good to render different ones and try them out. That was actually, I think in the end I did use render reflections a little bit, look red reflections a little bit. So the red render would be overlaid just as a light, like light, like a saturation or something like that. Not saturation, but like a light luminosity blended mode to have the reflection in and nothing else. Right. So here I've applied the light harmonic aberration thing. To do that, you have to essentially go into the options of the layer and untick uh, green and blue options, and then just shift this bit a little bit. See, green and blue have been unticked. Now I can shift it a little bit, and I get that chromatic aberration. Chromatic aberration is just an extra, we call it extra sharpening, really. Okay, it gives it. You can give it. You can say it gives slight realism because cameras, especially the cheaper ones, do give pretty bad chromatic aberration sometimes, depending on the light. So you could say that it's trying to mimic the camera. You know, okay, now I'm actually putting this stuff all together for an expert. You can see I'm building this gallery and I name each layer for the final name of the file. So then I could press generate assets button and that will export all of the JPEGs with correct naming. It didn't work out for me for some reasons. It usually does work. I'm not sure what I did wrong, but I named the folders correctly by the name of the file, .jpeg, the extension of the file. Usually works, but in that particular case, didn't work. We can see here the setup. And again, it's all made of the smart objects. So at any time, I have that bunch of groups there, but I can, at any time can go jump into inside the smart object and modify smart object itself, this layers, overpaint stuff that I need to overpaint, then can go jump back from that into my assembly file where I have everything neatly put in folders. So this is quite a handy way of doing it. So on one hand, I don't have overly heavy uh, assembly file. We don't have to way too many layers in that assembly file, and everything, all those layers are hidden in your smart objects. So it's good hierarchy to maintain. So here I decided to do the lights on the eyes just using the ellipse tool and uh, doing just pure white, then getting that across, combine it and duplicate it and applying Gaussian blur to get that look of look of glow. So you might have remembered I painted some glow here, but then I decided that it's just better to use ellipses and do the same operation, combine them all, and then apply glow. Here it was actually the ArtStation cover for the top of the ArtStation. I got a different cover now, but it was there for a few days. So then I duplicated the smart objects and I wanted to add some glow into the whole thing. So dealing with smart objects is really cool because you always have your master smart object, which the master and a whole bunch of instances which you can where you can apply Gaussian blur levels, and noise, all those filters. Then duplicate them a few times, overlay on top of each other, and then you can still always go back to the original smart object, modify it as much as you want, and and have it really sound hierarchy, which saves you time. Okay, adding lights to this particular render. So definitely these renders feel a little bit empty, and this is where I kind of decided to get that feel. I'm definitely going for the underwater look, and this is where I apply the uh, particles photo pack. And by the way, the model itself is available in the description for free. It's just 20 megabytes, so I can upload it as a step file on Gumroad for free. Gumroad allows any files under 25 megabytes being shared for free, which is great because if I had this as a mesh at like 30 million triangles, it would have been at least 300 megabytes or 400 megabytes. Okay, just clean that seam that I already started to regret that I have left that seam there. Right. So I didn't show it, but I started just. I've gone through a folder with. Oh, okay, you can see it here. I'm going through a whole bunch of particles, applying them on top. So just throwing them in, checking if it's way too much or not, how they look. And definitely, like if you're following an object with a camera and goes to a certain speed, and while particles go at a slower speed, the particles will be all blurred out um, because of the shutter speed on the camera. So yeah, in that case, you can get realistic stuff. Like I've seen, every time I publish something on ArtStation, I just work on, or even on YouTube. I have a mock-up of the how it looks, and I try to put the thumbnail in the existing video just to check that I'm doing it right. It looks good. It's going to be uploaded opposite to other work. Here, I'm just trying to add some perspective to this whole thing. So because the particles here, they're kind of going from left to right, but I wanted them to go from there to from from front to behind. Trying to get some depth, and so tried a few variations. Just trying. So in that, I went for like radial blue. It gives you this zoom sustain, which is like a Star Wars like jump to light speed thing. Quite handy. And I think I've just done it too strong. And polar coordinates is something different, but again, it can work quite well in uh, other situations. So you can see here, I use both like polar coordinates and zoom. So then you get that look. Fairly subtle, but visible. I actually forgotten about the trick with polar coordinates. I didn't think I used it. So here I've kind of already done most of the stuff. I decided to again thinking about the fluorescent underwater life. I decided, okay, I'll maybe it's be kind of cool if I drop all these little things like fluorescent lights on the drone. Again, it kind of helps in, I think, to identify it as a small objects, as all this fluorescent stuff is usually fairly small. And I only did it here. I think I didn't really do it on other renders. I was like, okay, this is one of the presentational renders. I was trying to use the ellipses, but I kind of didn't like the look too much, so I decided to paint it. Uh, it's certain space because it's just faster to paint it like that, and then apply, apply afterglow in the layer settings. There's a bit too much of a glow, so decrease it. All right, there's something in good balance. So now I can just paint it all over the place. And then I have a full control as well, so at any time I can decrease the amount of glow. Or can use even a erase tool to make the dots smaller. Fairly sketchy. No, I wasn't going for some extreme precision here. All right. Okay, so applied some extreme color lookup, which I load down quite a bit. And tried some finer particles. Okay, so I did paint here some of it, I guess. So painting that, I'm painting on my vacuum, and it's not a Cintiq, just a vacuum, and I'm just trying to make the brushstroke really fast. Or press Shift and drag a line that spacing. Doesn't take too much time. Let me define the glow amount and all that, and like shape. I was curious about the shape as well. And also, I thought I had too many of those dots, so simplify the amount, decrease the amount, deleted like every second one. I also like that having on the some irregularity and some antennas, which where they're not spaced too evenly and they have a little different level of illumination. Look kind of cool. So it looked like maybe it picked up some fluorescent material along it was going down. So it's at least some kind of story applied to the drone. Oh, so I was thinking what I did, I rendered out a Z depth path. I was thinking to add a bit more fog to to the object, and you can see here by default you get a Nordics file from Keyshot, which got 32-bit file, which looks like completely white, but it's got a lot of white information which you can get out if you decrease the exposure. So here I brought it in, and I was thinking maybe I could add a bit of fog, like if it's um, muddy water, not very clear water, it wouldn't have much of visibility, like only like a meter visibility. So I thought, okay, I'll bring it over and I'll try to do that water effect. And I tried to do it, and it just I was going through all the different ways of blending. It just didn't really look good. I mean, I already kind of added that water atmospheric effect using all the LUTs and just lightening the shadows um, through LUTs and color correction. So it didn't really look that great when I was applying extra light stuff with that. So in the end, I just abolished it because it didn't really add up anything of value. So here I'm trying to see if I can get anything out of here. I would even invert it and see what happens. But particularly if you were to do a misty environment, I would have definitely used that a lot. Here it just didn't work out as well as I thought. We are pretty close to the end. Oh, so here, because I was using those kind of like gradient spotlights, my rings got way too dark, so I wanted to add those like shining engines, Vortex and magic engines. They're starting to get too dark, so I wanted to get them a bit shiny again. Again, playing with the depths of like the depths, trying to see if I can get anything. One of the I wasn't really applying it well enough. I should have actually applied it to the opacity layer of the object, and it would have actually made it kind of transparent. I was trying to apply it from the top as a lightning pass, and I kind of failed it. And funny enough, I've just realized it now. I didn't apply it correctly. I should have made it as a mask, and that would have made it properly transparent instead of actually combining light color on top of the black color. Hmm, interesting. This stuff also helps when I talk it over. I do constantly find myself thinking about new ways of doing stuff. So that's why I keep doing this YouTube. And guys, yeah, it's about really the end of the whole thing. You can find this render on my ArtStation. You can find the file on my Gumroad. Relevant materials like a photo pack is all linked in the description. And thank you for watching. And see you in the next video. It's going to be coming out soon.